Vision Australia.
Blindness,
low vision,
Opportunity.
Vision Australia logo. 3 navy blue ovals linked together diagonally within a bright yellow rectangle.
Hi and welcome. This webinar today is put together especially for Vision Australia. This webinar is called Voice Mastery, How to Speak with Confidence and Create Impact. Welcome today and thank you so much for investing your time and energy into joining me here. And by the end of this 25-minute training today, you will have a much better understanding of how to speak with more confidence in any life situation. And before we get started, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about me and how I came to do this for you today, right now. My name is Elisa James and I'm a holistic voice coach and a voice mastery mentor. And I started my career 30 years ago as an entertainer. Now, a few years ago, I retired from that and became a voice coach. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I got here. And the reason is because you may be sitting here right now thinking, I need more confidence in my life. And that is the exact reason that I took the journey to becoming an entertainer all those years ago. About the age of 7, a circus came into town and there was a marching band with baton twirlers dancing and marching in front of the big parade. And that got my attention as a 7-year-old. The sequins, the glitter, the marching, the shiny batons being thrown up into the air, I knew I wanted to be part of that, something more exciting than just staying in my room playing with my dolls. And luckily for me, that was the first step towards moving towards confidence. Being in a group and feeling safe when I was dancing and singing and acting and twirling my baton over the years helped me gain confidence and skill in myself as a performer. But along the years, as I added tap and jazz and ballet and acrobatics and all sorts of things to the mix, and then became a very serious actor and a singer along the way when I was about 14, 15, things started to get in the way for me, apart from my lacking of confidence, which I was still working on, very much so, all the way through my teenage years and my 20s and my 30s even, because I'm naturally a very shy and inhibited person. And just because you are doesn't mean that you always will have to be, and it doesn't mean that you always will have to be shy from one moment to the next. But what I found is that there were many aspects of voice and health that was holding me back. After years and years of singing and acting and performing, there were still questions that I couldn't answer for myself, for my own health issues, for my own mind issues. So I started the journey of self-discovery through study. And the very first degree I did was a Bachelor of Science degree in holistic nutrition. And then I learned what was good for me to eat and drink to keep my body, my whole instrument, healthy and strong at all times. But soon I realized that that wasn't enough. And I knew that what we feed our minds is just as important as what we feed our body. So the next degree I did was a master's degree in holistic health and spiritual nutrition. And that really started to put the pieces together for body and mind and spirit. And then when I finally came back to Australia a few years later, I ended up doing another master's degree in voice, because the voice is my passion. Voice is how we connect with other people. It's how we communicate. It's how we feel good about ourselves. We feel fulfilled in our life's journey, and it helps us leave our legacy behind. So putting all those pieces together of 30 years of singing and dancing and acting and performing, combined with all that training, has led me to the place that I am at today, serving you. Voice is my passion. And look, I understand that at times it's difficult for us to be heard and to speak up and speak out and have a platform. Now, especially when you're shy or you have some confidence issues. And knowing when to speak and when to pause and rest in silence is actually really important. What we're going to cover today is really important communication rules around pacing and patterning that most people just do not know. And when we implement these really simple rules, people will acknowledge you as a clear, confident communicator and a good listener. And we're going to start with the 3 keys to authentic sound. And they are psychology, or rather the psychology behind the sound that you're currently making. Number 2 is aesthetics, the beauty of your voice, how it sounds to other people. Does it sound pleasant, or does it sound grating, or is it not loud enough? Number 3 is impact. What impact are you making on your listeners? Are they listening or are they not? So I'm going to go through each one of these individually and give you exercises that you can practice and implement in these key areas today, and you can do that right now after the training. Now, number 1 is psychology. The psychology behind your sound. Our voice is telling on us every single day. The way we speak is affected by our psychology, by the way we think about ourselves, our belief systems, our family and social conditioning. And we need to get past any of these issues holding us back in our mindset in order to speak out and up with confidence. So here's what we're going to do first. This is your first little exercise and test. We're going to analyze our speaking voice. So you might need some help for this. You're going to grab somebody's phone with an app for recording, and in a moment you're going to press pause on this recording listening to me, and you're going to record into your phone for 1 minute, and then you're going to come back to me in front of the computer. This is how you're going to do it. You're going to pick up your phone with the phone app, and you're going to speak for 1 minute just off the cuff into your phone and tell me, or the phone, about your day yesterday, or tell me what your morning routine is. I got up yesterday morning and I did some stretching first, and then I did some yoga, then I went out for a little walk and I had a meditation. Perhaps tell me a little bit about your morning routine, and I want you to record that into the phone. I want it only to be 1 minute long, and I don't want you to prepare or think about it at all. I just want you to speak off the cuff in your natural speaking voice. Are you ready? You're going to press pause on this recording now and go over to your phone, and I'll see you back here in 1 minute. Press pause now. Now, by now, you would have done your recording and come back to the video here with me. And I want you to ask somebody to help you. You're going to write down a few things as you listen back to your recording now, and you're going to write down a few things about what you heard. These are some ideas of what you can write down. How do you feel about the way that you currently sound? What does it sound like to you? Is it pleasant? Is it loud enough? Is it confident? Is it not confident? Is it hard to understand? Has it got a lot of fillers, ums and ahs? And maybe the sentences aren't constructed very well. I want you to think about that for a minute, and I want you to press pause again on this video, and I want you to ask somebody to help you listen to that recording and write down what you heard, what you like and what you don't like. Press pause now. Now, the next step is we're going to write a list of 3 people that we really admire and look up to. And that could be someone that inspires you, maybe an actor or a singer that you know that's famous, that you've heard before, or a public speaker, or a teacher. I want you to think about some people that inspire you, and I want you to write down some words that describe why. Why is it that somebody inspires you? For instance, for me, as a singer, a speaker, and a performer, somebody that I greatly admire is Celine Dion. And the reason that I admire her is because she's strong and she's passionate and she's got a powerful voice and she believes in herself. And these things are really important to me personally. And so she's somebody that I very much look up to and someone that inspires me. I want you to think about those people right now. You only need to think about 1 or 2 or 3 people at the very most. And I want you to write down a few lines about why they inspire you. So grab a pen and paper, ask somebody to help. You're going to press pause right now, and I'll see you back here in 1 minute. Press pause now. The last exercise in this first piece around the psychology behind your sound is your 3 little words. This is going to be part of your vocal brand, the way that you sound when you're at your very, very best. Let me explain that a little bit. I want you to think about a time in your life that you felt really good about yourself. Maybe you had a great conversation with somebody, or you felt safe and loved, or you felt like you achieved something that was very important. For instance, I'm going to give you a clue about what this is. For example, I always had a lot of trouble with conflict. It's never been easy for me to have conflict with somebody, an argument, or get in the middle of an uncomfortable situation. So I would always run away or excuse myself and hide and pretty much shut down. That was my way of coping with conflict. But it wasn't very efficient for my life. It didn't serve me well. And I was certainly not my best self in those moments because I felt less than. I didn't feel confident. I felt powerless. I felt weak and victimized. And I really wanted to change that. So at the next opportunity when I learned about how to do this, I behaved very differently. I had somebody complaining about something, that it was a neighbor, and we were having this argument about them making too much noise. And I stood firm and I listened to her speak and I listened to her words. I breathed, I slowed down my breath, I stood firm, and instead of running away and hiding like I would do, I just listened and I breathed and I accepted everything that she was saying so she could feel heard. And you know what? We both came to a very satisfactory conclusion. And when it was over, I felt so proud of myself for being brave, for standing strong, for being compassionate, for being a good listener, and for feeling confident. And sometimes your 3 little words are words that can help you stand in the confidence and be the strong person that you want to be. For me, my 3 words that help me get back into that state of confidence is playful, positive, and strong. And that makes me feel confident. So I want you to pause the recording right now, and I want you to write down your 3 little words, the 3 words that help you feel at your absolute best in life. Press pause right now. So we're going to move on now to aesthetics. And this is the quality of our speaking voice. And what we're going to do now is listen back to that recording that you just did a few minutes ago, and we're going to listen for different things this time. This time, I want you to listen for things like this. Does it sound strong? Does it sound confident? Does it sound articulate? Can you hear every word, every consonant, every vowel? Is it clear? Is it weak? Is it soft? Is it airy? Is it croaky? Does it sound underconfident? What is it that you hear now in your recording? Press pause now. The bottom line is when we speak with a strong and confident sound, it's easier for other people to listen to us for longer periods of time. The bottom line is if we can speak with a voice that's confident and strong and clear and projected enough to be heard in most situations, people will listen. Now, the next little part of the training is helping you discern the 5 most common disempowering vocal sounds. Now, this is more about pacing than it is the actual aesthetics, but it makes up a very, very important part of the way we construct sentences. Here are the things that we're going to be looking out for, because when you do these 5 things, it makes us sound lacking in confidence, and it makes us sound nervous. So we don't want that when we're speaking. We want to breathe, take a nice deep breath, and speak in complete sentences with nice pacing. So I'm going to teach you how right now. Number 1 thing that you're going to avoid is upspeak, or rather an upward inflection at the end of a sentence. And this is what an upward inflection sounds like in general conversation. I went to the beach today, and my name is Elisa James, and I'm a voice coach. Do you see at the end of every sentence, I'm going up as though I'm asking you a question? Now, people who are not confident, who are sometimes from Northern Queensland, it's a very popular thing to do. Australians tend to do an upward inflection way too much. And it tends to mostly be people who are underconfident, a little shy, and a little insecure about speaking up for themselves. And you can really hear that in other people when they have that upward inflection. It sounds like they're asking us, the listener, for acceptance. And that's not really what we're doing. We're trying to talk to you and have a general conversation. So please only use upspeak if you're asking a direct question, like, how are you today? Are you good? When we do that with that clear upward inflection, we know that we're asking a question to the listener. We wait and the listener will respond. If it's a very clear upward inflection, the listener will respond. If you're not being clear in the rest of your sentences and you're doing upward inflections all the time, the listener will be confused. Now, if you're very aware of this and other people are not, that can sometimes be a problem for us because so many people use upward inflections at the wrong time. So what you and I are going to know as our little secret now is that the people who do that tend to be a little underconfident. So we can help them feel more confident by asking them questions. Really simple trick. So that was upspeak. And I want you to practice this with your loved ones at home so you can make a very clear differentiation between going upward in an inflection and going down in an inflection. And then people will be very clear whether you're asking them a question and they need to respond or you're making a statement. Very different. Number 2 is fillers. Once you've listened to your recording a few times, you'll be able to figure out what your fillers are. Some people's fillers are you have all sorts of fillers that fill up a sentence and they're absolutely not necessary. They muddy up your communication and it makes it very difficult to listen to somebody who cannot even get through one sentence because they're saying like, all the time. You can't focus on what they're saying because there's too much noise. So make sure that you're very clear and concise when you're speaking and you don't add fillers. Again, this will tell you when you're listening to somebody, because nobody is a perfect speaker here. In Australia, a lot of people don't speak well. So we really need to listen and learn about other people's speaking patterns by listening to as many people as we can. And we're discerning who the confident speakers are, who believe in themselves, and those who don't. And we can help the people that don't by teaching them and showing them by good example what a good confident speaking voice sounds like. So eliminate any of your fillers, and by now when you listen to your recording, you'll know what they are. Number 3 is trail off. If I'm speaking to you at the end of my sentence, I actually lose power in that. A lot of people, when they're trying to speak, they forget to take enough air, their voice trails off at the end, and then they come here. And the end of the sentence just disappears. You cannot understand or follow somebody whose voice becomes so low in pitch and so weak that you actually can't understand the end of every sentence. Now, when that happens a few times, the listener will just switch off. They'll get bored. They'll walk away. They won't be paying attention to you anymore because they don't really understand what you're saying because you keep trailing off. And it goes into the throat. And when the sound is made into the throat and not forward in the mouth, it won't be very clear. Number 4 is vocal fry. Now, this is just a noisy, lazy sound that we make when we're not producing our voice properly. And it sounds like this. I hear you going, yeah, it's really nice to meet you. I went to the beach today and I had a really good time. And a lot of young people use that sound, and it's literally just not using your muscles for speaking properly. There is no excuse for it. We can sound really tired and really depressed if we use that sound for a long time. And if you do that when you're at a job interview or when you're somewhere that it's important for you to make a good impact, people are not going to trust you. They're not going to think you're skillful. They're not going to think that you're experienced, and they're not going to think that you can do the job because you don't sound confident when you're speaking in that way. It's called vocal fry, and it just adds a lot of noise to the sound, and it's a very lazy way of speaking. You don't need to do it. Number 5 is just putting too much air and having a very weak sound. When you have a really weak sound, you tend to sound like that. You tend to go right down in pitch. It can be a little bit noisy, like vocal fry, and then there's too much air coming out, and it starts to sound a bit whispery. And when you have a whispery sound like that, it's not very strong. You need to use your stomach muscles and really be in charge. If you stand up and you jump up and down, and you jump up and down and make big noise, and you can notice that your stomach muscles and your core muscles really activate when you're being powerful. That's all you have to do when you speak. You have to use a little bit of energy and enthusiasm, and that will automatically switch your voice on. Last but not least is impact, how to make people listen to you. Speaking patterns that will build trust, rapport, and engagement with any audience, and regardless of whether you're doing a job interview, a public speaking engagement, or a social situation. Here are some golden rules around conscious communication. Are you ready? You might want to ask somebody to write these down. They're very, very common and simple rules, but they make a big difference. Low pitch conveys authority. Low pitch. When people speak at a very low pitch, like I'm doing right now, it makes you sound like you're the boss, like you're in control. You'll notice that a lot of CEOs, people at the top of their company, and politicians speak with a low pitch. So when you want to gain authority and you want to sound like you're in a position of leadership, sometimes a lower pitch can help, but make sure that you are producing that low pitch properly and not going into that, or not losing it by making it too throaty. It all depends on how you're going to produce the sound. The pitch is not that important, to be honest, but some people feel a low pitch makes them sound more authoritarian. Now, if you need to sound a bit more strong and more powerful, then a low pitch will help you do that if you really use your core muscles and keep that voice really strong. Number 2 is fast pace. When somebody speaks too fast, it's really hard to listen to them because it's not clear enough. But if you can be clear and understood and speak really fast, it engages people, it gets them excited, it gets them uplifted, it gets them enthusiastic, and you can hear it in their voices because they're getting really excited because their pace goes faster and their pitch goes higher. It always conveys excitement and energy. So practice speaking fast, but make sure it's clear and people can still understand you. Because a lot of people speak way too fast and they cannot be understood. It ends up being rambly and mumbly. And there are 2 things we want to avoid. And that is actually the next one, rambling sentences. Make sure your sentences are short and concise. The reason is because when we go on and on and on and on, and we fill together all these sentences with and then, and so, and, you know, and blah, people lose focus. They cannot follow a rambling sentence. They can follow sentences that are short and concise and sound like a statement. When something sounds like, this is what happened and here is the end, people know that you're finished with your idea and now it's their turn to talk. If it's not very clear, they're going to try to interrupt you and interject all the time because your sentences are too long. So shorten your sentence and make them short and concise. Prosody and accents. Now, prosody is the musical inflection that we use when we're speaking. If I just use one pitch over and over and over and talk to you like this for a long period of time, you're going to switch off and go to sleep. Because one pitch is boring. When we use many pitches and go up and down with our voice into all sorts of different areas, it becomes really interesting and the listener never knows what's coming up next. And that's exciting because people will pay attention to you because you're engaging and you sound interesting. And when we accent certain words, like you sound interesting, when you accent that word, it makes you pay more attention to a specific word and less to another word. And that makes you interesting as well. So make sure that you're always moving your pitch into different ways and you're adding some accents when it's really important for you to be heard. A low pitch, when you want to really stress an important point, you can speak lower and speak slower. Because a slow speed also will make you sound more serious or get a sad point across or thoughtful. It makes you sound thoughtful and it makes you sound like you're really thinking properly. A low pitch and a slower speed. Now, a high pitch, remember, conveys excitement. So we've already covered a little bit of that. And the last one is silence. Silence is so useful. It allows people to think, to really assimilate the information that you've been given, and a really good use of silence is it can make the listener slightly uncomfortable because they're worried now that they either might have missed something or switched off when you were speaking, and now they have to pay attention because there's a gap. And next one is that they'll want to interject and fill up the gap. We all avoid silence, but silence is powerful. It leaves people hanging on your words and makes you sound more confident and more in control. So be calm and confident during those pauses, during the silence. People will pay more attention. Now, here's some really basic ways of how we can apply these voice skills today to some life situations. This is a really quick story about a student that I had that is a nurse, and she completely lost confidence in herself and was missing out on job after job after job. So I ended up doing a 6-week training program with her to build up her confidence around her speaking skills. She had suffered from trauma and anxiety and depression from being bullied over many, many years. And that had really held her back and changed her voice and changed the way that she operated in the world. She had lost confidence in herself. So when we started working on voice skills and learning how to do all the things that I'm teaching you right here today, she actually got the very next job. Now, she had been passed over in 9 job interviews before she met me. 9. That's a long time and a lot of job interviews that she had to go through, and they were unsuccessful. After doing some voice training, she ended up getting the very next job was flown to a different town to start a brand new life and ended up having 200 people underneath her in a managerial position in a hospital. It was an amazing transformation. So how you speak in a job interview is going to be very important. Remember, our voice is telling on us every single day. What is it saying? So in a teamwork environment, if you're in a team at work or at school, or you're in a position where you're in a team where you have to listen and be able to feedback and speak up for yourself, I'm going to quickly go over 3 keys that are going to help you in an environment where you're in a group situation. You're going to A, listen with an open heart. Remember, that's our conscious listening, and with the intent not to speak, but to listen and to take notes and questions and add value later when the time is right. But listen first with an open heart and an open mind. Number 2 is stand strong in your core, because if you're standing upright with your ears over your shoulders and your core is strong and you're ready to speak and add value whenever you get inspired, you will absolutely do that because you are ready to go. If you're slumped over or you're feeling really lazy and you've got air like that and you're not feeling confident, you're not going to feel like you can interject and be inspired. So really be ready to add value. Stand strong with your feet firmly on the ground, or even if you're in a chair, sit up nice and straight on the edge of the chair, ready to go when the opportunity arises. And the last one is finish each sentence with a downward inflection. So your teammates or your group know when it's their turn to speak and you are finished. And if you're asking a question to your team, be very clear and concise and use an upward inflection. You're asking a question. A question needs a very clear upward inflection and then pause and wait for them to respond. That puts pressure on the people who are listening so they know they have to respond. And here's we're going to end up with some very, very important things here today. Are a few little keys of how you can use these skills in a social situation. Face the person you are directing your words to, and sit and stand in a very strong and upright position with a strong core, and that will make sure that the listener knows that you are giving them 100% of your attention. Now, when you care about someone and you're facing them and you're listening to them, they will feel heard and feel understood and therefore reciprocate in kind. They will be better listeners because you are becoming a better listener and paying attention to them. Number 2 is listen for their downward inflection of the voice. So you know when the other person is finishing their sentence, it sounds like they're done. That's the cue for you to jump in and add to the conversation. Number 3 is keep your sentences short and concise and always think ahead so you don't just rattle on and on. Remember, people get bored very quickly these days, and you will hold so much more attention when you're speaking to people, anyone, if you keep short, well-constructed sentences with downward inflections at the end. People can listen to that for longer periods of time. And the last one is be brave and animated with your speaking. Use your hands and your face as much as possible, because passion and enthusiasm is infectious and it will make a huge impact on your listeners. And use different pitches as well to express different things. Remember, high pitches and louder when we're excited, and lower pitches when we're more serious, and slow down when you want to make an important point. So I hope that has all really helped for you today. If you implement all these things that you learned today, you will find that you will become a better, more confident and articulate speaker, and people will listen to you much more readily. And you'll also be able to listen to other people now with a different ear, because you've learned some different tools and techniques. I'm going to leave you with one last thing that will really help you build your confidence. And it's the power pose. I want you to sit up nice and straight now. or stand, and I want you to put your hands on your hips like Superman does. You can put your fists on your hips, in fact, because it makes you feel even more powerful. And I want you to stand up nice and tall and straight so you feel like Superman. When you stand in this pose or sit in this pose for just 2 minutes, it raises your testosterone levels, which is the hormone that makes us feel powerful and confident and free and articulate. And it lowers your cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone that makes you feel really insecure and weak and nervy and anxious. It raises the good hormones and lowers the bad hormones just by standing in a power pose for 2 minutes. So if you're going to a job interview, or if you're going to be in a situation where you feel a little bit anxious, I want you to go and do some vocal exercises, do some speaking and warming up your voice, and then stand in your power pose just for a few minutes before you walk into the room. That will make you feel more confident and help you be very aware of your conscious communication. Now, what is next for you? You can ask your loved ones to go through your recording that you did today and identify 3 areas that you need to work on so you can improve your voice and communication skills. And what are they for you? You might find that your projection needs work, or maybe you need to eliminate those fillers, or you might need to work on your pacing and speed, or you might need to tidy up your articulation and make it clear and slow down when you're speaking. Ask a loved one for some feedback and get their honest opinion and start work on that area. The best way to do this is to every day speak into a recording and listen back and see where you need to have improvement. We all need to listen back on a consistent basis to really find out where we can improve as speakers and communicators. So I hope this training was helpful for you today. And if you'd like to inquire about some further private coaching with me, Elisa James, Holistic Voice Coach, or about one of my online courses or online classes, please speak to your Vision Australia service provider or simply go to my website for further information. And my website is www.elisajames.com, and that's spelled ELISAJAMES.com. ElisaJames.com. And there you'll find online courses and classes and books and ways to get in contact with me. It's been a pleasure serving you today, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Bye.